and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I've got another book talk video to share with you guys. Today we are talking about The Marsh King's Daughter by Karen Dion. If you watched last week's book talk video, which was my 100th book talk, you know that I've got 2 copies of this book, and I'm going to be giving one away to one of you guys as a thank you for all of your continued support. So I'm really excited about that. So how we're going to do it is I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of the story. I'll announce the winner, and then we'll get into the more nitty-gritty of the story. Because, of course, if you're the winner, I don't want to ruin it for you if you're someone who typically watches all the way through to the end. So let's just jump on into it. So, in The Marsh King's Daughter, we meet a woman named Helena. She's a wife and a mother. I'd say she's in her mid to late 30s. She makes her living by making jam and jellies and selling them to the local shops. She lives in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and she has an affinity for the wilderness. What we quickly learn right off the bat, and how she introduces us to it, is she says, if I told you my mother's name, you'd know her right off the bat, because she's famous, but she's not famous for anything, fun or glamorous, but instead she's famous for when she was 14 years old, she was kidnapped and taken hostage out in a cabin in the middle of the wilderness. So she's taken, nobody knows, nobody finds her, they're not able to find her. And then as time goes by, the woman becomes pregnant with her captor's baby. And that baby is Helena. So for the first, I think it's 14 years of Helena's life, she lives in a cabin with who she believes to be her just regular mom and dad. She doesn't know that she's the product of, kidnapping and abuse. She just thinks that he's her dad. And she loves him fiercely. Even though he can be brutal with his punishments, she doesn't know any different because she's never seen another family or seen any other kids or talked to any other kids to know how they interact or how a family's supposed to be. So it's all relative. What you know is what you know. So she knows that she loves her father. He teaches her a lot of things. He takes her out into the wilderness. He teaches her about trapping and hunting and, preparing the meat to eat, and about plants and flowers and what you can eat and what you can't. And, he loves her too as much as he can, even though oftentimes his punishments are quite severe. Like, there's a well on the property, and sometimes he'll put her down in the well, close it up, and leave her there until he feels that she's learned her lesson. On the mom's side now, she's a grown woman, but she's been living in captivity for a very long time. And obviously, she's not the best mother. Because she can't be. He tells her what to do. And if she disobeys him, she's severely punished as well. But also, she's incredibly traumatized. She's been held up in this cabin for a long time. So the emotional damage, she's broken. So she's not a good mom. She's not capable of being it. And over time, the Marsh King, whose name is Jacob, he turns Helena against her mother slowly, little bit by bit by bit. And over time, he just poisons her against her. And then one day when Helena is 14 years old, they're rescued and they're brought out back into, civilization. Helena, when she speaks in the present day, she says, even to this day, there's some things like pulp culture references and just other words and phrases and things that she doesn't know what they mean. Just because she was never exposed to it and she hasn't figured it out yet. It's something new. So the story, first of all, this story is so well written. It's so well written. The characters are so well developed. It's such a pleasure to read all around. So we've got this, it's well written, the characters are great, and the story is executed so well. It's a heartbreaking tale. It kept me up at night. Like, you can't stop reading this once you start. It's so good. It's a page turner. It's listed a bit as a thriller, and in some ways it is, but I don't know that I'd classify it as that. It's just a really well told story. So we get snippets of Helena in the present, and then we get flashbacks to the past so that we can know more about her and more about Jacob. And learning more about Jacob becomes important because in the present day, she finds out on the news that he has killed 2 prison guards and he's escaped. Because it took about 2 years after they were rescued for him to be found, but he was finally found, put in prison, but now he's escaped. And she knows in her heart that he is coming to find her. So that's the premise of the book, without giving anything away, because that all happens right at the beginning. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the clip where I went to the random YouTube comment generator website and picked the winner of the book. Alright, you guys, so I just did the selection of the giveaway winner on the YouTube random comment picker. You just put in the URL for the video and then it picks a winner for you. And the winner is Julie Barnes. I'm so excited, Julie. I'm going to leave my email address in the description bar of this video. So just send me an email with your address and I will get the book off to you as soon as possible, hopefully tomorrow. Okay, so now we're going to get into a bit of spoiler type territory. So Julie, you might not want to watch the rest of this, nor might anyone else who plans on reading the book. So click away now. But for the rest of you, here we go. So like I said, he's killed 2 prison guards, he's escaped, and Helena knows in her heart that he is headed towards her. And how he would know where to find her is that she is currently living on the property where he grew up. His parents passed away while he was in prison and left the land to her. So what she did was she tore down the house that he had grown up in, built her own house, and that's where she's chosen to sort of build her life. The situation with her mom, once they got out, her mom was kind of still trapped mentally at the age she had been when she was taken, and Jacob had done so much poisoning to Helena's mind against her mother that even once they're out, even though logically she knows that her mom's not to blame, that she has no reason to be upset with her mother because they were both victims, she just can't come to terms with it. She can't put it behind her and move on and try to build a loving relationship with her mother. So after trying for a few years, she moves away. And the next Helena hears of her mother is that her mom's died. You know, years down the road, she heard that. And that whole situation just broke my heart. That they couldn't reconcile, that it was so far gone. So there's that. So now she's living on Jacob's property. She knows he's coming. One thing that she had tried to do after she was free was to just start a new life. When she moved to the property where she lives now, she wanted to put it all behind her. She didn't want the people that she met and formed relationships with to know who she used to be. You know, that she was the wild kid that grew up in the wilderness. She didn't want that to be the label that followed her. So when she met the man who's now her husband, she didn't mention any of it to him. Not at the beginning and not ever. She's sort of kicking herself now. She's like, there were so many instances where I could have just brought it up, but she didn't. And so now the police come to her door to sort of let her know that Jacob is on the loose and asking her if she's heard from him. And her husband's there, and now she has to tell him. And now she has to tell him about the life she had lived. And that creates a lot of, he's hurt that she never told him. He's scared that you know, we're sitting ducks here. What if he's just, you know, this man has just murdered 2 people? What's going to stop him from coming here and murdering us? Because, you know, in a very real way, Helena is the reason that they got captured, the reason that they got rescued, and therefore the reason he went to prison. So Helena's like, exactly. So you pack up and you take our 2 daughters and you go to your parents' house. I'm going to stay here. And her husband's like, no, you're not. You're going to come with us. And she's kind of like, nope, you're going to go and I'm going to stay. Eventually, he feels like he has no choice but to leave her. So he goes. And she begins to prepare for his arrival, for finding him. And she knows that he is such a, you know, wilderness man that there's no way these cops are going to find him, at least not for a long time. And she knows that if anyone is capable to go head to head with him out in the forest and find him, it's her, because he trained her for years. So she's like his even match. So she takes her dog and she heads out into the woods. Meanwhile, while this is all going on, we're still getting more flashbacks into her past. And it's a riveting story. So now I'm going to tell you the major spoiler, the ending spoiler for those of you who just like to listen to me tell the story. She finds him out in the woods. During the tracking of him, he leaves her clues and little messages to let her know that he knows that she's coming. And then in sort of a brilliant display, she finds a way to outsmart him and get ahead of him. Once she realizes that he's headed directly to the house. And so she manages to get up around him and in front of him, and then they have the showdown. And he attacks her, she attacks him, and in the end, she's the one who's able to kill him. And it's sort of like just this vindication of finally now she's actually free, you know, truly free from him. And there's a lot of conflict in it because as much as she hates him, she loves him just as much because he's her father. And no matter what, there's that place in her heart that she keeps him in. And even though as the years went by and she became a mother herself, she became able to reconcile more in her mind the small ways that her mother had tried to protect her and her mother had worked so hard to make life okay. She's angry at him for that as well now, more than ever before. She's so angry at how he broke and damaged her mother. So she finally gets this like vindication where he is done. He is done hurting her, hurting anyone. He's done. He's not going to kill anyone else. He's not going to ruin anyone else's lives. There's no chance of him ever escaping again, you know, because she didn't want to just get him and put him back in prison, although that's kind of what she thought would happen at first. But in the end, she realizes that no, she needs to end this now. So it's a beautiful story. There are parts that are hard to read because, you know, as you know, it's a book about kidnapping and, you know, abuse, and even with the wilderness stuff, there's some descriptions where, you know, they talk about the hunting and the skinning of the animals. That's a little hard to read, but, you know, that's just sort of reality for people who spend a lot of time in the wilderness. So I definitely give this book 2 thumbs up, would highly recommend it. It was a fascinating read. And like I said, I could not put it down. So thank you guys so much for watching. To any moms out there watching, I hope you have a great Mother's Day weekend. And I will see you guys on Monday with a vlog. Bye guys.